What if everything you believed about Hollywood's golden couple was a lie? What if behind the carefully curated Instagram posts, red carpet smiles, and picture-perfect interviews there existed a secret campaign of betrayal, manipulation, and calculated destruction? Because today we're pulling back the curtain, and what we've uncovered is nothing short of staggering. Private messages between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have just been leaked, and they don't just reveal personal drama. They expose a cold, strategic attempt to sabotage another actor's career. Someone they once called a friend, that actor Justin Baldoni. This isn't just celebrity gossip. This is a scandal of unprecedented proportions involving power, reputation, and the terrifying ability to destroy someone from behind the scenes without ever making a public move. These messages now central to a heated legal case show Blake and Ryan allegedly discussing how to shut Baldoni down, how to manipulate the press, how to isolate him in the industry, and even how to push producers and brands to quietly back away from his projects. And here's the twist: it worked. For months, maybe years, Baldoni's career has suffered unexplained setbacks. Roles disappeared, funding vanished, collaborators went radio silent. Now we may finally know why. The text messages suggest a coordinated, well-resourced campaign to silence and smear him simply because he posed a threat to the status quo, a threat to the image, a threat to the very people who built their reputations on virtue, feminism, and performative allyship. The leaked texts are ruthless, sarcastic, and strategic. This isn't emotional venting, this is a playbook with names redacted and plans drafted like a corporate attack memo. And what's most chilling is that some of the very media outlets we trust to report the truth may have been complicit, nudged, influenced, or manipulated into printing stories that painted Baldoni as unstable, difficult, or irrelevant. So why now? Why are these messages coming to light? Because Baldoni's legal team, after months of silence, is fighting back. These messages are now at the heart of a high-stakes civil case, one that could not only shatter reputations but change how Hollywood wields its influence forever. And as the public sees more of these secret exchanges, the backlash is growing fast. What you're about to hear isn't a theory, it isn't a rumor. It's direct from the source, pulled from real communications, entered into evidence, and confirmed by court-approved digital forensic experts. This is the side of Hollywood they never wanted you to see: the quiet blacklists, the phone calls that ruin careers, the texts that rewrite someone's future with a single line: make sure he doesn't get that deal. This is more than a feud, this is a reckoning, and it starts right now. It's the kind of scandal that Hollywood scriptwriters couldn't make up, except this time it's real. And it's devastating, in a development that's shaking up both the entertainment industry and the court of public opinion. Secret messages between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have allegedly been exposed, and what they reveal is explosive. These aren't just your average celebrity texts. These are coordinated, strategic messages that seem to outline a campaign to smear, discredit, and professionally destroy actor-director Justin Baldoni. For months, speculation swirled about whether Lively and Reynolds were merely bystanders in the multi-million-dollar legal battle between Baldoni and powerful Hollywood insiders. But now the veil has lifted, and what lies beneath is darker than anyone anticipated. Sources close to the case, once anonymous, now corroborated through court leaks, indicate that multiple encrypted messages and cloud-based notes between the power couple were recovered during a sealed discovery process. These texts were not included in public court filings until a recent judge's order allowed their partial release, citing the overwhelming public interest in the matter. What makes this even more chilling is that the messages reveal not just Blake's anxiety over Baldoni's whistleblower claims, but Ryan's active participation in strategizing how to neutralize Baldoni's influence. According to transcripts reviewed by legal experts, the messages included phrases like "he's got to be stopped," "we can get redacted to run with it," and "she owes us after TIFF." These vague but ominous phrases appear to reference a larger network of industry insiders and media contacts. One particular line allegedly from Ryan to Blake reads, "We've covered for enough people. If Justin goes down, he'll drag everyone. We've got to keep him out of Variety, out of anything award season adjacent." It's no longer speculation. This was a coordinated, deliberate effort to discredit and isolate Baldoni using influence, favors, and the celebrity power couple's PR machine. Even more disturbing are the references to what legal analysts now suspect were threats of professional sabotage. In one message, Blake allegedly tells Ryan that he'll fold if the right people turn cold. Experts interpret this as a likely reference to Baldoni's tenuous relationships with key decision-makers in the industry: producers, casting directors, studio heads, many of whom are longtime allies of Reynolds or have benefited from Lively's endorsement in one form or another. Another message reads, "Remind him who greenlit his first expletive feature." He doesn't get to pretend like he's the victim now. The fallout from these revelations has been instantaneous and overwhelming. Social media has erupted, hashtags like #ReynoldsExposed and #BlakeLeaks are trending globally. More importantly, Baldoni's legal team has reportedly filed a motion to reopen discovery, arguing that the text messages prove a pattern of malicious intent that could rise to the level of civil conspiracy. This is no longer about reputation alone. We're talking about legal liability, possibly even criminal obstruction if proven in court. The reaction across the industry has been a mix of shock, fear, and calculated silence. While some mid-tier celebrities have expressed vague solidarity, with Baldoni liking posts resharing cryptic stories, Hollywood's list has largely remained quiet. Why? Because many of them are named or implicated indirectly in the leaked correspondence. Blake's apparent reference to an unnamed who knows where the bodies are buried has set off wild speculation that it refers to a powerful executive or agent with influence across multiple major studios. It paints a picture of a Hollywood elite not just complicit in silencing dissent but actively colluding to suppress any threats to their carefully curated public image. And then there's the media manipulation. Perhaps the most damning section of the leaked text cache shows a conversation in which Ryan allegedly says, "Let redacted run a story about the temper on set, make it look like the execs are concerned about his behavior, spin it." This wasn't just behind-the-scenes gossip. This was narrative engineering designed to smear Baldoni's credibility, creating a toxic professional image that would precede him in meetings, press tours, and negotiations. For Baldoni, these revelations are nothing short of vindication. His claims that he had been the subject of a targeted campaign of defamation and exclusion are no longer conjecture, they are supported by actual receipts. His legal team has already filed a supplemental motion, citing the texts as newly acquired materially relevant evidence of bad faith and retaliatory coordination that justifies a reevaluation of all claims dismissed under anti-SLAPP protections. But what's even more fascinating is the public response. The tide is turning fast. Once considered one of Hollywood's most beloved couples, Blake and Ryan are now under scrutiny, not just as celebrities but as potential power abusers. Their reputations, once pristine, are being questioned by fans and commentators alike. Reddit, Threads, Twitter, X Spaces, TikTok, breakdowns everywhere you look. People are analyzing the text messages line by line, trying to understand how deep the manipulation goes and who else might have been involved. Even former co-stars of both Reynolds and Lively are now being pressured to comment. And while many are staying silent, a few cryptic posts have raised eyebrows. One actress who previously worked with Blake tweeted a single word, "finally." Another posted a screenshot of a headline and wrote, "Told y'all this wasn't just PR games." The implication that this behavior was systemic and well known in certain circles, long before it became public. The layers of deception are only just beginning to unfold, and the web surrounding Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds is proving more intricate than anyone imagined. As the text messages continue to circulate through media circles and legal teams, deeper questions are emerging. Who else knew about this? Who helped make it happen? And how long has this been going on? Because if the texts are accurate and so far all signs point to their legitimacy, then we're not just dealing with a momentary lapse in judgment. This may be evidence of a long-term campaign designed to systematically dismantle Baldoni's influence in Hollywood, using the couple's vast network of connections and media leverage to make it happen. One recurring name in the messages is that of a well-known Hollywood publicist, identified only as M. Investigators believe this to be a reference to a high-ranking PR executive known for managing crisis communication for A-list talent. In one message, Blake allegedly tells Ryan, "M can get it buried if we run it through the awards narrative. Position it like he's unstable and overly intense on set, just enough doubt." This is the kind of character assassination that doesn't need hard evidence. It relies on innuendo, whisper campaigns, and vague sources to destroy reputations. It's surgically designed to prevent Baldoni from getting new roles, producing projects, or even being taken seriously in public interviews. Even more unsettling is a separate exchange that appears to involve a mutual acquaintance at a major streaming platform, where Blake writes, "We just need to make sure he doesn't get a first-look deal with platform name redacted. That would make this 10x harder. Can you call us?" The reference to a first-look deal suggests that Baldoni was close to securing a significant creative agreement, possibly one that would give him autonomy over future projects or documentaries surrounding the very whistleblower case that has thrown the entertainment world into chaos. This paints a picture of Blake and Ryan actively working behind the scenes to undermine a contractual opportunity that could have shifted the power dynamic in Baldoni's favor. The magnitude of this orchestration is being referred to by some commentators as the most elaborate soft blacklisting effort of the decade. And what's critical here is how subtle it was. Rather than launching an outright smear campaign in public, Blake and Ryan appear to have used their influence to cut off access, plant doubts, and privately discourage collaborators from working with Baldoni, all without ever going on record. The digital messages, however, have now broken that silence. And what if Baldoni, during all this, according to court insiders, the actor-director had long suspected that his stalled career trajectory in recent years wasn't a coincidence. Several promising projects were greenlit and then inexplicably pulled, interviews were cancelled. Certain A-list actors and actresses began withdrawing from attached productions. At the time, it felt like bad luck. But in light of these revelations, Baldoni's team now believes it was a targeted campaign of professional sabotage, death by 1,000 invisible cuts. In response to the leaked messages, Baldoni issued a short but emotionally charged public statement saying, "I always believed in the power of truth and transparency even when it hurt. These revelations don't surprise me, but they still cut deep. I'm grateful they're finally seeing the light." It was a dignified response, free from malice, but the underlying pain was clear. And perhaps that's what's making the public side with him so strongly. There's a raw, unfiltered sincerity in how Baldoni has handled the fallout, refusing to engage in personal attacks, while remaining committed to seeing the legal process through. Meanwhile, legal commentators are now calling this a potential game changer in the ongoing case. Several lawyers specializing in entertainment law have come forward to confirm that the contents of the messages could constitute not only civil conspiracy, but also potential interference with prospective economic advantage, which is a recognized legal cause of action in California. If proven, this could open Blake and Ryan up to massive financial liability, and possibly even a countersuit from Baldoni seeking damages for lost income, career stagnation, and emotional distress. This leads us into a wider conversation that the industry is now being forced to confront. How many other actors have been quietly handled in this way? If two of Hollywood's most beloved stars were willing to engage in this level of manipulation behind closed doors, how many others are doing it too? And more importantly, how many have gotten away with it simply because there wasn't a paper trail? Industry insiders are whispering that this might just be the beginning. One source, who spoke on condition of anonymity, claimed that the text leak came from a disillusioned associate of the Lively Reynolds circle, who had access to shared cloud accounts. If that's true and more messages exist, the full extent of this scandal could be even more explosive. The same source hinted that the messages so far are mild compared to what hasn't been released yet, and the ripple effect is growing. Late-night hosts who once regularly joked about Baldoni's overly earnest public persona have suddenly gone quiet. Publicists across Los Angeles are reportedly advising their clients to stay neutral for now, and, perhaps most telling of all, major fashion brands known for aligning themselves with the Reynolds' lively aesthetic have quietly paused upcoming collaborations, awaiting further developments. Ryan Reynolds, once the darling of both indie and mainstream Hollywood, has not made a public statement, but sources say he has privately retained a top-tier crisis management firm known for handling the fallout of celebrity scandals involving leaked communications. Meanwhile, Blake's legal team is allegedly in triage mode, seeking injunctions to prevent further release of messages that could deepen the narrative of malicious collusion. So far, those efforts appear unsuccessful. The court has emphasized that due to the relevance of the texts and ongoing litigation, redactions will only be granted under exceptional circumstances. As the situation unfolds, fans have begun organizing what they're calling digital accountability movements aimed at pressuring public figures to comment or distance themselves from the Lively Reynolds axis. Multiple hashtags have emerged. Hashtag Team Baldoni, hashtag Expose the Circle, hashtag ReynoldsGate, with fans digging into old interviews, red carpet footage, and even promotional materials in search of clues that point to a broader pattern of toxic behind-the-scenes behavior. And the irony is hard to ignore. For years, Ryan and Blake were held up as the gold standard of Hollywood love and professionalism, wholesome, funny, philanthropic, seemingly untouched by scandal. They crafted a brand that felt aspirational and grounded, but now that image is crumbling under the weight of their own words, recorded and time-stamped in cold digital clarity. The more we learn about the messages exchanged between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the more it becomes clear that this wasn't just a personal vendetta. It was a corporate-level campaign executed with the precision of a PR war room. What began as whispers has now erupted into a firestorm that threatens to incinerate not only the couple's brand but also the industry's willingness to protect celebrity power at any cost. It is now impossible to ignore the breadth and depth of the manipulation revealed in these messages. For every carefully constructed red carpet moment and philanthropic headline, there appears to have been an equally calculated backstage maneuver, intended to undermine control and dominate. One particularly disturbing text in the leaked batch shows Ryan allegedly telling Blake, "Let's hit him where it hurts." Get redacted to back out of his next feature, say it's about tone, they'll understand. This implies not only that they were trying to shut down Baldoni's next film project, but that they knew exactly what coded language to use to trigger executives' fierce terms like tone and optics that don't need evidence, just a whiff of controversy to scare studios off. And then there's the message about Wayfarer Media, Baldoni's passion project studio. Blake allegedly wrote to Ryan, "If we can get someone to quietly audit Wayfarer's funding sources, he'll have a mess on his hands by spring. Enough to keep him out of the room for awards season." That's not gossip, that's weaponized influence. That is the use of financial leverage, media narratives, and reputational risk to control who gets to have a voice. It's chilling in its calmness and terrifying in its strategy, but here's the turning point: it's not working anymore. The public is waking up. The press, initially hesitant, is now starting to ask real questions. Reporters are pushing back against Blake's team's vague no-comment responses. Social media has moved past memes and into documentary mode, with entire YouTube channels now dedicated to breaking down each sentence, timestamp, and motive behind the leaked messages. The narrative is no longer being controlled by PR managers. It's being led by activists, analysts, and digital sleuths who refuse to let this be swept under the rug. A particularly revealing thread on Reddit gained over 200,000 upvotes in 24 hours, dissecting the leaked messages and mapping out a full timeline of how Blake and Ryan's influence intersected with Baldoni's career decline. The post included receipts from old interview cancellations, scrapped casting announcements, and eerily timed bad faith media coverage that lined up almost exactly with the time frame of the leaked texts. In one example, a glowing variety feature about Baldoni's upcoming directorial project was mysteriously pulled days before publication. At the time, fans thought it was just a delay. Now many believe it was part of a coordinated effort. What's more, industry veterans are finally beginning to speak. One anonymous producer told The Wrap, "There's always been a quiet hierarchy in Hollywood, and Blake and Ryan sat near the top. If they didn't like you, you felt it immediately. Projects vanished, phones stopped ringing." Another source close to Netflix alleged that Baldoni was blacklisted from several romantic drama scripts due to personality conflict concerns that were never explained but always understood to mean someone big was pulling strings. Now let's talk consequences. As of this week, Baldoni's legal team has filed a revised motion to the court with the full transcript of the leaked messages, demanding the reopening of discovery. They are specifically alleging malicious interference, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a concerted effort to obstruct fair access to professional opportunities. These are not frivolous claims. They're rooted in specific California tort law doctrines that carry severe civil penalties, including compensatory and punitive damages. And here's where things get even messier: if the court finds that Blake and Ryan acted in bad faith during prior depositions, or if they withheld relevant information during the initial discovery phase, they could be looking at sanctions, evidentiary penalties, and reputational fallout that extends far beyond this case. Judges don't take kindly to parties trying to hide communications that are later revealed to be central to the case. Some legal experts believe that this could also open the door to a federal-level inquiry if financial sabotage or cross-state coordination with studios and platforms can be established. Think RICO-light, not mafia territory, but still deeply damaging, especially if texts imply efforts to destroy contracts, prevent deals, or orchestrate defamation. And while Blake and Ryan's lawyers are already trying to spin the leaks as contextless messages taken out of proportion, the sheer volume and specificity of the text suggest otherwise. These weren't random rants or outbursts. These were planned actions coordinated with third parties, with the express goal of discrediting another professional actor who had dared to speak out. The hypocrisy here is stunning. For years, Blake and Ryan built their brand on empowerment, social causes, and industry change. They were seen as allies to progressive movements, often posting about equity in entertainment, inclusion, and mental health, but the tone of these texts betrays a darker, more vindictive undercurrent. They don't just discredit Baldoni, they mock him. In one text, Blake allegedly refers to Baldoni's emotional speech at a Survivor's fundraiser as his little TED Talk audition. That level of dismissiveness and cruelty, especially about a man who's publicly committed to supporting victims of abuse, has horrified even longtime fans. Public trust is collapsing and fast. Endorsement deals are reportedly under review. At least 2 major brands, one in cosmetics, one in fashion, are rumored to be reconsidering future promotional campaigns with Lively as the face. Ryan's projects, including the much-anticipated sequel to Deadpool, are being carefully monitored by Disney and Marvel PR teams who are no strangers to controversy. But even they aren't used to handling this level of personal reputation collapse tied to internal communications. And amid all of this, Baldoni is gaining support, quietly at first but now more vocally. A-list celebrities may be staying mum, but independent filmmakers, writers, and rising stars are coming forward. They're posting statements tagging Baldoni, sharing stories about similar experiences. This isn't just a defense of Baldoni, it's an indictment of an entire Hollywood culture, where the rich and powerful use their influence to bury inconvenient truths. We are witnessing a paradigm shift. And the question everyone is now asking is, will Blake and Ryan face real consequences? Or will they, like so many before them, survive with a carefully worded notes app apology and a retreat from public life? Until the storm passes, if the legal system has anything to say about it, this might be different. The judge overseeing Baldoni's civil case has made it clear that transparency is paramount, and that relevant communications, regardless of origin, must be considered if they bear weight on the character of the alleged harm. Translation: the messages are not going away, the case is not going away, and for once Hollywood might be forced to confront its own reflection. The fallout from this scandal is becoming more than just a celebrity issue. It's turning into a litmus test for how far Hollywood is willing to go to protect its power players, and how long the public is willing to tolerate silence from those with influence. As more and more messages between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds surface, each more damning than the last, the facade of glamour and goodwill the couple spent years building is deteriorating at warp speed. In a newly leaked string of messages that was quietly authenticated by a court-appointed digital forensics firm, Blake appears to outline a targeted strategy for suppressing press coverage about Baldoni's legal efforts. In one chilling line, she allegedly says, "If we can discredit his lawyer, the rest folds." This comment wasn't a throwaway, it was part of a discussion involving at least 3 other individuals believed to be public relations executives, and one journalist with ties to a major entertainment publication. The idea that a celebrity, someone with global brand appeal, massive contracts, and access to elite platforms, would go so far as to attempt to undermine a whistleblower's legal counsel is staggering. It isn't just unethical, it could veer dangerously close to obstruction of justice, depending on the intent and outcome. Even more disturbing, Ryan allegedly added in a reply, "Does he really think this will go his way? Let's make sure every producer hears he's impossible to work with." That isn't just career sabotage. That's a digital execution, reputational murder by group text. And the consequences for Blake and Ryan are only accelerating. Internal reports from Disney executives suggest that Ryan's upcoming promotional chore for Deadpool 3 is now being reevaluated for messaging tone, with crisis advisors reviewing every potential Q&A opportunity, every red carpet appearance, and even how his name is presented in film credits. The stakes are no longer just about Baldoni's lawsuit. They're about whether or not two of Hollywood's most iconic figures can continue to exist in a public-facing brand while fighting accusations of calculated malice. Meanwhile, the narrative that once protected Blake Lively, the charming actress, doting mother, women's rights advocate, has collapsed under its own weight. The America's sweetheart image was always carefully maintained, but now with hard evidence suggesting she weaponized influence, manipulated relationships, and gaslighted a legal process to shield herself from accountability. She's no longer seen as a symbol of innocence, she's being viewed as a participant in a cover-up, and worse, a mastermind in a takedown. The betrayal isn't just professional, it's emotional. For fans of all 3 individuals involved, Baldoni, Blake, and Ryan, the messages cut deep, because they show a side of celebrity that's far more vicious than fans were ever meant to see. These aren't slip-ups or impulsive texts, they're strategic, controlled, and chilling in their precision, and now those words are immortalized in legal archives and public discourse forever. Even Blake's former colleagues are beginning to weigh in subtly. One director who worked with her years ago tweeted, "Simply silence speaks, but these texts scream." Another actress who starred alongside her in a hit ensemble posted a photo of herself with Baldoni, and the caption, "Truth always wins, eventually." The quiet tide of Hollywood opinion is shifting, and with every passing day, more people are choosing not to align themselves with the power couple. And then there's the court itself. In a recent ruling, the judge denied Blake's emergency motion to have the leaked messages sealed, stating in open court, "When communication bears directly on an alleged campaign of reputational harm, it is not merely relevant, it is essential." Legal observers called it a devastating blow to Lively's credibility, and a sign that the court may be leaning toward allowing full discovery into digital correspondence, even beyond what has already been revealed. This changes the game entirely. If the court orders full message chain disclosures including from deleted accounts, or backups, Blake and Ryan may be forced to surrender encrypted archives, third-party conversations, and even Team Slack messages, or private email threads. It opens the door to further exposure not just for them but for everyone in their orbit, who may have participated, assisted, or benefited from the alleged effort to destroy Baldoni's career. The implications monumental. If more names are implicated, Hollywood could be looking at a massive domino effect. Multiple lawsuits, endorsement fallout, canceled projects, and a complete reassessment of the power structure that has long allowed these kinds of quiet manipulations to happen without scrutiny. And for Baldoni, this may finally be the beginning of a public redemption arc. He has remained largely composed, declining media interviews while the case plays out. But insiders say he's been documenting everything, every phone call, every suspicious withdrawal from a production, every weird email that suggested something was off. He's been quietly building a case for years, and now the evidence is pouring in to support what he long suspected. His fans are rallying, his team is mobilizing, and Hollywood may have no choice but to reconcile with the fact that one man, speaking truth to power, may have cracked open a machine designed to protect itself at all costs. It's no longer just about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. It's about an entire industry reckoning with itself. It's about the people behind the curtains, the agents, the journalists, the executives who said nothing while watching careers be manipulated like chess pieces. It's about what happens when a public finally sees how fragile the illusion really was and decides not to look away. And as for Blake and Ryan, they may soon find that the court of public opinion is far less forgiving than any judge, because while legal outcomes can be delayed, appealed, or spun, screenshots can't be unsent. The messages are out, the damage is done, and this time the narrative isn't theirs to control.